Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into something quite concerning. It's this trend of cyber attacks targeting K-12 schools.
Yeah, it's definitely been in the news a lot lately.
Exactly. So we've pulled together, recent news articles, some expert analysis reports from places like the GAO to try and get a handle on what's actually happening, why it should matter to you, and maybe what can be done.
Right, it's about boiling it down because these aren't minor glitches, are they?
Not all.
We're talking major disruptions to education, incredibly sensitive data getting exposed, and frankly, a big potential cost to taxpayers down the line.
So our mission here is to cut through maybe the tech speak.
Yeah, get to the core issues. Who's being hit? What data is at risk? What are the options?
Okay, let's dive in then, because
Yeah.
it really feels like we hear about this constantly. Another school district hacked,
It does feel relentless sometimes.
and the numbers back that up, unfortunately. That GAO report you mentioned, the Government Accountability Office, it showed incidents nearly tripled between 2018 and 2019.
Tripled. That's huge.
And then up again, another 18% jump in 2020. That's a pretty steep climb.
It really is. And it suggests, this isn't just random. It points to a sustained effort, a focus on the education sector.
Why though? Why schools?
Well, we'll get into the vulnerabilities, but they're seen as, well, potentially easier targets, holding very valuable data.
And the impact is real. We're not just talking numbers. Highline Public Schools near Seattle, they had to close all their schools
Yeah.
back in September 2024 because of an attack.
Imagine that disruption. For families, teachers.
Right. And Des Moines Public Schools in Iowa, same thing, canceling classes in January 2023.
And there was that prediction, wasn't there? From malware bites back in 2019.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
They estimated a U.S. school district would get hit roughly every 3 days.
And sadly, looking around, it feels like they weren't far off.
Unfortunately, no.
So what kind of attacks are we mainly seeing? Is it mostly ransomware?
Ransomware is definitely a huge piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah.
An analyst from MCSoft estimated, I think for 2021, something like 1,000 education institutions got hit by ransomware.
1,000. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's where they lock everything up, right? Encrypt the files.
Exactly. They scramble the data, make it unusable, and then demand money for the decryption key.
But it's not just about locking systems anymore, is it? There's this whole data theft angle, too.
That's become increasingly common and, frankly, more worrying in some ways. Because even if a school pays the ransom, and that's a whole other debate,
Yeah, should they even pay?
there's zero guarantee the attackers will actually delete the stolen data. We're seeing them leak it later or use it for double extortion.
Like with the Power School situation?
Precisely. PowerSchool reportedly paid up, hoping to stop the data leak. But now, those same attackers are apparently going after individual districts, trying to squeeze more money out of them using the same stolen data.
That's awful. It shows paying doesn't always solve the problem.
It often doesn't.
Yeah.
It can sometimes even fund future own acts.
So who are these attackers? Are they sophisticated groups?
Often, yes. You have groups like Vice Society. They've really specialized in hitting the education sector.
Vice Society, okay.
And they're quite versatile, unfortunately. They use different ransomware families: Black Cat, Quantum Locker, Zeppelin, Red Alert. They don't just encrypt. They actively steal the data first. That's the exfiltration part. Then they use that as leverage.
And they've had big targets, like LA Unified.
Yes, LAUSD was a major one. They've hit schools in the UK, too. And the data they steal, it's not just grades. We're talking things like passport scans in some cases, really sensitive stuff.
Passport scans. Good grief. The potential for identity theft there is huge.
It really is. And long term.
Are there other attack types besides ransomware in these big groups?
Oh, absolutely. Phishing is still a major threat. Business email compromise, basically. Like Scott County schools in Kentucky, they lost, what, $3.7 million through a fraudulent scam.
3.7 million, just tricked into sending money.
Essentially, yes. Often involves impersonating a vendor or someone in authority. It plays on human trust, or maybe just busy staff.
It's staggering. Which brings us back to why schools are such attractive targets. It's not like they're rolling in cash.
No, their wealth is data, huge amounts of it. Think about everything a school holds. Student names, addresses, dates of birth, social security numbers sometimes,
Medical information, allergies, emergency contacts.
academic records, disciplinary notes, maybe parent financial details for fees. It's incredibly comprehensive.
A gold mine for identity thieves, basically.
Absolutely. And often the defenses protecting that gold mine aren't Well, they aren't Fort Knox.
Right. Legacy systems, maybe? Old software?
That's a big factor. Plus, IT departments in schools are often stretched really thin. Underfunded, understaffed.
So not enough people or resources to keep everything patched and monitored constantly.
Exactly. It creates openings that attackers are actively looking for.
And what about things like students bringing their own devices? BYOD. Does that make things worse?
It definitely adds complexity and risk. Yeah. When personal laptops, tablets, phones connect to the school network, you increase the potential entry points for malware. Even the College Board allows BYOD for the digital SAT now. It's convenient, sure, but it needs really tight security management.
Makes sense. And even newer tech isn't immune. I think I saw something about QR codes being used maliciously.
Yes, that's a newer vector. Microsoft highlighted this. Attackers create malicious QR codes. Someone scans it thinking it's for, I don't know, a lunch menu or a school event link.
And it takes them somewhere nasty.
Exactly. To a phishing site to steal their password, or it tries to download malware onto their phone or laptop.
Wow. So many angles. And it's not always outside hackers, right? Sometimes mistakes happen internally.
That's a really important point. Verizon's Data Breach Investigations Report, the DBIR, consistently finds that miscellaneous errors are a significant cause of breaches in education.
Like what? Just sending an email to the wrong person.
That's a classic example. Misdelivery. Accidentally attaching a file with sensitive student data to a group email. Things like that. Human error is a factor we can't ignore.
Okay, let's circle back to that Power School breach. It sounds like a really major case study in all of this.
It really is, yeah. It sort of encapsulates many of these issues. So the timeline, apparently the initial compromises using stolen credentials happened back in August and September 2024.
But the big one, the main data access, wasn't found until later.
Right, detected in December 2024, and it seems the entry point was their PowerSource customer support portal.
So the data they got,
Yeah.
you mentioned names, addresses.
Full names, addresses, phone numbers, passwords for students and teachers.
Okay.
Parent info, contact details, social security numbers, medical data, grades. Just a huge trove of sensitive information.
The scale was just mind-boggling, wasn't it? The numbers claimed.
Yeah, the attackers claimed data from 62.4 million students and 9.5 million teachers.
Millions.
Across over 6,500 school districts, U.S., Canada, maybe other countries. Even if those numbers are slightly inflated by the attackers, it's still enormous.
And Power School paid the ransom. But the attackers are still trying to extort the individual school districts.
That's what's being reported, yes.
Yeah.
It perfectly illustrates the problem with paying ransoms.
No, dear T.
None at all. The attackers still have the data, and they'll try to monetize it however they can. It's like the Change Healthcare situation we saw earlier in healthcare payment doesn't equal resolution.
Just looking at the list of potentially impacted districts, it's eye-opening. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Alabama, California, Illinois, New York.
Connecticut, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maine, Massachusetts,
Michigan, New Hampshire, Nebraska, New Jersey, New Mexico.
North Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Vermont, Wisconsin, and multiple Canadian provinces, too.
It just shows how reliant schools are on these big platforms and the ripple effect when one gets hit.
Absolutely. The interconnectedness is vast.
Okay, so this is all pretty bleak. But surely things are being done. There must be efforts to, fight back, improve things.
Yes, thankfully, it's not all bad news. There's definitely growing awareness and action. There have been calls spurred by reports like the GAOs for the Department of Education and DHS, Department of Homeland Security, to really update their cybersecurity plans for K-12.
So federal level attention is increasing.
It seems to be, yes, which is crucial.
I think you mentioned the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. They have a program.
Yes, the Schools and Libraries Cybersecurity Pilot Program, that's quite significant. It's providing actual funding for schools and libraries to get more advanced security tools.
Like what kind of tools?
Things like better firewalls, endpoint protection for computers, monitoring systems, stuff that many districts just couldn't afford on their own.
That funding must make a huge difference.
It has the potential to, definitely. Budgets are always tight in education.
And I heard about this really interesting idea. Universities helping out with student-run security centers, SOCs.
Ah, yes, the Student-Powered Security Operations Centers. It's a fantastic model. Places like LSU, UNLV, they're setting up these centers where students, under supervision obviously, monitor for threats.
So the students get real-world cyber training.
Exactly. Invaluable experience. And the schools, sometimes even other public sector bodies, get much-needed security support. It's a real win-win.
That's really clever, like building the future cyber workforce while protecting schools now.
Precisely. It's a model that could potentially be scaled up.
Are companies involved too, like offering training?
Yes. Companies like ClassLink, for example, offer specific cybersecurity training courses for school staff, helping them understand how to protect data, spot phishing emails, things like that. Education and awareness are key.
It feels like that has to be a huge part of it, right?
Yeah.
Educating everyone, students, teachers, staff on just basic cyber hygiene.
Absolutely fundamental. It needs to be part of the school culture, like fire drills. If everyone is more aware of the risks and knows basic safe practices online, it makes the attackers' jobs much harder.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Quick recap. We've seen this really worrying, steady rise in cyber attacks targeting K-12 schools.
Yep, more frequent, more sophisticated.
Ransomware is a big weapon, but so is data theft, leading to potential extortion even after payment.
Driven by organized groups, but also simple phishing scams and even internal errors.
And schools are vulnerable because they hold so much valuable data, but often lack the robust IT resources and maybe modern systems needed.
BYOD adds risk. New tech like QR codes can be exploited.
And the Power School breach was a stark example of the potential scale: millions affected, ransom paid, but problems continue.
A really tough situation.
But on the upside, there are efforts. More government focus, crucial funding from the FCC pilot program,
Innovative ideas like the student SOCs.
and a growing emphasis on training and education for everyone in the school community.
It shows there's recognition and movement, which is positive.
So the takeaway is, schools face a huge, evolving cyber threat. Massive amounts of sensitive data are at stake.
Definitely. The landscape is challenging.
But efforts are underway to strengthen defenses and build a more cyber-aware future, starting right in the classroom.
That sums it up well. The challenges are real, but so is the work being done to address them. It offers, a necessary bit of hope.
Okay, so as we finish, here's something for you, our listener, to think about. Our digital world is so connected now, right? So how might an attack on a school, maybe in a totally different state or even another country, how could that indirectly affect your life, your access to information, maybe services you rely on?
It's a deep question.
And what does this trend reveal about our society's broader vulnerabilities, given how much we now depend on these digital systems for critical things like education? Something to mull over. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.